Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It is Macro Monday. Let's take a look at some data and charts on the legacy side. First things first, on the crypto side, weekly global asset flows for crypto flipped back positive. This is from James at CoinShares. A little bit into ETH, a little bit into BTC. We may continue to see this slowdown of flows. It kind of feels like we're at a standstill. Is gold going to have its moment? Is Bitcoin going to have its moment? Our equity is going to slow down. Our bonds going to have their moment. It certainly looks and feels like Bitcoin is going to have its moment and it's Bitcoin's turn. But if that's not the case, it's because dollar turns up or gold turns up or something else moves instead. Now, if we can get another couple billion in flows over the next couple weeks, I would imagine we would easily be much higher than we are today. And we do have some of these treasury companies that are continuing to buy on the BTC side, on the ETH side. That's going to help push things higher. We've had a really volatile US session so far. Tried to go to 122, that got smacked down. Still above the cloud, no worries there. Still well above the 20-week moving average, this yellow line. No worries there on trend. Survived the potential bearish TK cross, edge-to-edge stuff. For the moment, it still looks bullish, but if we go back and forth over and over again and we get chopped up, that's not going to be good for anybody. Going from we're so back to it's so over. But I think based on the rest of what I'm going to talk about, you have to stay bullish BTC. I mean, the chart pattern is there. Just the technicals alone support bullishness. We survived the Bollinger Band expansion. Didn't go any lower there. 122 continues to be a bearish level based on the yearly pivot. That's my read. But if we can break that level, I certainly like 140 to 160. I don't know if we see that in August, but hey, why not? We could. We very well could. We've been held at this level for quite some time. So I'd imagine once the sellers are exhausted, we would try to go higher. There's also a fractal breach on the daily at this level if we can close above 120 today. So the daily cloud likes it. The AI cloud also has no qualms with being long here. Bullish continuation. The COT data flipped back bullish in a bigger way with commercials adding on net last week. So where's the bearishness, right? Like, it's hard at this point to say, now we expect prices going down. We survived an attempt thus far. This is the pitchfork from 2022. Still looks good for higher. Still looks good for the same price levels as that cup and handle. And then we have the 1050 as well, which hinted at a bear cross. Has been very good historically at giving you a heads up. Any of these crosses are going to be noisy from time to time. That's not the point. The point is, okay, if you get a bear cross, that's not bullish. If you get a bull cross, that's bullish. And if you survive a near-death experience, then that's bullish. That's how this works. So far, so good. On that front, MSTR today still very much in the range, choppy. I don't really see anything here to do that's actionable on my end. Below the 10 above the cloud, below horizontal resistance, below the pitchfork midline. It's just kind of a mess here. I think the important picture is that MSTR IBIT just doesn't scream bullishness here. It just looks like a random walk, just range bound. I think the difference between the current range we're seeing and the range we saw prior is there were, in my opinion, clear evidence for ascending triangle continuation. I don't know what could potentially morph into. It just looks very random to me. If you're getting higher highs, then I think you like it a lot more. But until then, I don't think you can expect outperformance on MSTR. Like, you need to see some higher highs. Otherwise, it's just stuck in this huge range that it's been in since November. So what does that mean? That means you're probably better off trading anything else, Bitcoin adjacent, Bitcoin leverage options, BITU, until this starts to turn around and look better. Now you could trade this and say, well, I know this is going to 800. It's going to 800. I'm going to stay here. That's okay. I just don't see that today based on this chart. Looking at some of the other treasury companies on the 30-minute, it's kind of been where I think you need to grab these just because they move so fast. I've been monitoring all of them on lower time frames. This is Naka on the 30-minute. Broke out at 8, I guess, last week maybe? And now it's at almost 2x in a couple days. I don't think these are long-term holds like MSTR was or has been. I think very much they are trading vehicles in the near term. Anytime you see something up 30, 40, 50% in a day, you have to think that a lot of people on balance are going to be taking profit. if they were holding from 8, right? You know, this might settle in, keep going over time. Certainly not bearish, but you got to keep in mind, how much more do you want in the near term when you get a move like this? One that I'm watching that has not moved yet, that may see some actionability, is CEPO. Now, it could be for any reason, some announcement, oh, they're buying BTC, whatever, right? Like, it literally doesn't matter. It just needs a little bit of a push, just like BMNR did, to go higher. And maybe it's even just Bitcoin price. If Bitcoin breaks out to 122, maybe this is a better ultra short-term trade, intra-week trade than even MSTR or BITU. But I just like alerts at the cloud, and you just wait for the alert, and you ignore it until then. Flushing the pipe, as I like to say. All the people that bought at a heavy discount are probably slowly dripping that back into the market, and it's really been down only since the initial announcement. Now onto ETH, a lot of people were asking, well, if you think ETH is going to break to 10 and it's at all-time highs, what are you doing selling ETH here? For me, it's just a trade. Now, if you think ETH's going to 10, I'm not saying you're wrong or it can't happen. I think there's a good chance ETH goes to 10. If you think that's the case, trade it, don't own it, stake it, sell it a week before the end of the year, sell it January 1st, right? Like, if we want to play the tax game, that's how I would do it. If you did well and caught this trade from 2,500 or lower, then I think, yeah, you're taking some profit. Again, you're up X%. You're probably fine to rotate that elsewhere for most people. Yeah, hold on to your runners, let your runners run. Love it. Love the idea. Most people shouldn't trade this. Most people should do nothing. You know, most people have been staking this since 2022 or whatever. Who cares, right? So yes, this can go to 10K. I don't hate it. I just like the breakout potential of BTC over ETH here in the moment. Here's BMNR on the 30-minute. Broke out August 5th, 7th. And again, I'm just watching this stuff. Haven't traded any of it. Just taking a look, seeing how it behaves. And it's been, I don't know, a week and a half-ish, a week. We'll see if this rolls over or not. Previously, SBET had, I don't know, 2 weeks. But again, the 30-minute cloud, not something I love doing, going that low, but it has picked these up quite nicely. And it did pick up this little move here. I'll see. I don't think there's going to be much continuation in the moment, but if I'm going to try to trade these, it's got to be on a lower time frame like this. And I'm sure there are more examples, but I flipped through all of them. I didn't see anything else that looked tradable. I think for the most part, people are focused on the very large market cap companies. And there's Galaxy, which still looks great to me. It's consolidating at the breakout level. I added to this today. I think it has a chance to go higher. That's it, right? And if you look at this relative to MSTR, this is a much cleaner chart. Much cleaner chart. Very different companies, but I don't think the technicals are lying relative to the breakout potential here. And then we have Coin, which has dropped back into the range and just looks ugly. Not saying this can't 2x from here. I just really hate trading broadening, expanding wedges. I always want to get bullish at a breakout. I don't want to get bullish in the range. At this point, your rebuy is like 400. So I don't know. It's just not for me. It's in the too hard pile. I'd rather just trade something else. I'd rather trade Galaxy. Just straight up. Doesn't really make sense to fool around with Coin, in my opinion. As far as events for the week, we have CPI tomorrow, Fed Speak Wednesday, PPI Thursday, retail sales Friday. So some stuff going on. PMI the week after, but it's pretty quiet the week after. So this is going to be the bigger week over the next 2 weeks. If CPI comes in hotter than expected, which I think that's where the market is leaning, then here's the forecast 2.8. I think we may see a down move there just because the rate odds for cuts may shift a little bit. Now, if we get a CPI well under expectations, then you're going to see markets moon, I think, because then you're going to see a shift closer to 100% of a cut in September. Now, we still have Jackson Hole this month, but if the data is supportive of a cut and you already have all these Fed governors dissenting, that's where the market's going to be. The market's going to be favoring a cut. Now, the reason I think we may see hotter than expected, not by much, but we could see hotter than expected because July into August has been rising. Month over month, it's almost unchanged. So despite CPI estimates rising, PCE rising as well, we're not seeing that in Truflation. Truflation has been super noisy, but it's still down here below 2%. You can kind of see the before and after of tariff stuff trying for this to take off, but so far, not much has really happened. And again, you could argue, well, are the tariffs even real yet? Have they really broadly work their way through the ecosystem. Maybe not, but so far, this is what we have. So truflation kind of going in the opposite direction of CPI at the moment. GDP still looks good. It is at 2.5% on the Atlanta Fed estimate. The forecasts are much less rosy. Forecasts coming in here under 1%. Now, I don't think you can see an NBER declared recession until we get back-to-back negative quarters. So it doesn't look like we're close to that yet, but we'll see as the quarter goes on. You know, if this already looked negative, then you could say we're getting closer. We're getting closer to a potential recession. On the liquidity front, reverse repos down here quite low again, 82 billion. This is the inert pile of cash outside the ecosystem. If this drains to zero, that would point to problems with the plumbing and most likely lead to Fed intervention should a problem arise. And as a reminder, this is coming off of 2.5 trillion. This was the liquidity injection that got us here, along with the ETFs on the Bitcoin side. And looking at this just sit here quite low, you know, if this is the reserve, this would signal some tight conditions for liquidity. Bonds as a whole, again, if we're thinking about like, what's the next move? What's the next big move going to be? BTC, gold, bonds, equities, ETH, whatever, right? Where's it going to be? These are setting up for a move. They're leaning bullish. Good things happen above the cloud. Ag especially, which is a broad slice of everything, looks pretty good. IEF looks pretty good. TLT long bond, not really anything I want to touch. So if these break up, BTC likely breaks down because that probably signals risk off, I'd imagine. Maybe there's some scenario where bringing rates down helps move these higher. We'll see. But I think probability-wise, if this stuff starts to break up, then crypto's in trouble. If we look at the volatility of the bond market, this continues to make lows, and this is really good for liquidity. So we do have a little bit of a cross current here. I would say this is more bullish than like ag breaking up would be bearish. If you map BTC with move, it's inversely correlated. So the lower this goes, the more bullish it is for BTC. The same thing with VIX. The lower the VIX goes, the volatility of the S&P, the more bullish that has been for BTC, currently nestled in here at 16. When we spiked to close to 50, now that wasn't a good time for BTC. And during COVID, when this spiked to 80, also not a good time for BTC. So if we can continue to range in the low teens, should be totally fine for BTC to see some continuation. We also have the dollar, which tried to break up. Is it breaking down? It's also a mess, very rangy. Back to this idea of who's going to move first. Certainly isn't in bullish territory. It looks like both the inverted head and shoulders and the falling wedge has tried to fail here. So we'll see. You know, I just don't have a strong read one way or the other. I think everything's just waiting for somebody to make the first move. GLD looks strong to me still. The problem is this is a paltry 10% move on gold, which would make it far above everything else, probably double equity performance on the year. So it's a great move for gold. It's just in the grand scheme of things, that's not why most people are here. They're not here for a 10% move, right? They're here for a 50% move, a 100% move. But if this can continue to hold these highs and make slightly higher highs, I think there's a good chance that this sees 340 this year. And if we look at the breakdown from Charlie Bolello of all of the assets on their performance, gold up there at the top, Bitcoin next, emerging market, US tech, US growth, some other stuff down the list here, commodities at the bottom. So gold moving up another 10% would already be, okay, so it would be over double, well over double, triple what the NASDAQ has returned this year. Very unusual times. And it certainly looks like the NASDAQ and the SPY are slowing down quite a bit at current levels. This is the emerging markets ETF, EFA. Again, with these broadening, expanding wedges, this is a multi-year, this is like a year and a half of a broadening, expanding wedge. I just think these are very difficult to actually trade. This certainly looks more bullish than bearish up here. It's just been quite a journey. Lots of volatility on this thing. It is good that it's holding this resistance turn support and looks a heck of a lot better than coin does. I'll give you that. I don't think it looks as good as URA, uranium, but it's in a place where you'd want it to be. And maybe it needs to continue to consolidate up there. KWeb is another one I thought of on the international side. This thing has done nothing for years. It's been an absolute dog. Chinese internet ETF. Maybe something else to watch in the periphery, along with gold and ag and BTC. This is setting up as well, but the problem is it's been setting up for years. Looks like you may see a move on this within the next 6 to 12 months. It's just very hard to trade this seriously with size, in my opinion. I'd rather just trade something else. On the commodity front, this is DBC. It's probably for the best that this has not broken out, because that would be an inflationary signal. Now, some of this commodity components have broken out, but collectively, I think oil is really what is holding this down. This really hasn't done much of anything. But this is something else to watch. You know, if you're looking for non-correlated or inversely correlated assets that aren't crypto, that aren't equities, that aren't bonds, that have done nothing really for years, that have a pretty clean TA case if this starts to break up, I don't know, 22 3/4 or something. You know, maybe this is a place to park some money for a short period of time as a hedge, or just to weather whatever's going on in the market. Very interesting multi-year decline on that one. The individual components, this is REMX, this gapped up hugely again, made a new high. Still looks good. You know, a lot of people were asking me on the down move, what do I think about ads? I think anytime you are above the cloud, nearest to the Kijun, I think it's a good to go as far as an ad. So this bounced down and up real quick, and that tends to be how commodities move. They are super volatile, but still bullish. Looks pretty good on balance. Then you have oil, which is back at 64. There were people when this was at 75 calling for 100 and 200. Well, currently back at 64. Doesn't look like it's going anywhere fast. And XLE has been also just a nothing burger, despite setting up for multiple years really, really nicely. Has gone nowhere. That one's just been dead. Hasn't been the place to be. Now, if we do a hard pivot to quantum, this was the top 4 quantum stocks that I've seen anyway. And again, comparing to MSTR, Rigetti looks way better to me from a technical perspective than MSTR. Even IONQ kind of looks Rocket Lab-esque, you know, before the breakout. Multi-month inverted head and shoulders, maybe. Maybe this is ready for higher highs. These two on the left look better to me than the two on the right. But on any given day, who knows, right? Which one of these is going to move? If they move plus or minus 20 to 50%, who knows? But collectively, all of them are leaning on the bullish side for sure. And then lastly, on Tesla, I saw 2 other people mention this, not only on the breakout, but as this was setting up. So, you know, it's not just me looking at this stuff. I think a lot of people are looking at Tesla with a technical lens and saying, okay, this is a triangle breakout. This looks good for bullish continuation. This is a guy from Fundstrat. And then we have Axel here from Twitter as well, also pointing to something very similar. So, you know, all this stuff could fail. That's not saying this is a slam dunk, but there's certainly a lot of people looking at this, pointing to bullish continuation. And maybe silently, this is also a good tailwind for crypto, because Tesla and crypto from memory tend to move closely together, you know, especially in post-election. A lot of that was Elon related. But if Tesla isn't bearish, then I think it's harder for crypto to be bearish, just because it's a sentiment risk on thing rather than, you know, this is Tesla, this is the car company, this is Elon, this is what they're doing. It's more about the vibes. That's all I got for this one. Give me a like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.